to Series A investor, which basically means we invest between $1 million to $3 million in the first check. And we are an agri-focused fund. We are the only dedicated agri-tech fund in the country. And we've been around for about last 12 years, 40 plus companies now. To your question of valuation, I think, and this is always a function of the macro. There are certain times when you have a lot of capital which is available for a certain sector, whether it's fintech, whether it's health tech. So there are certain waves that you see that there's a lot of availability of capital. That is when, of course, we see these hyper valuations happen. And right now, if anyone is following or seeing the news, the last 6 to 12 months, I think there's been a very solid dampening of all of that sentiment, right? So I would be in fact, I'm kind of happy that this happened because in many spaces, not so much in agri-tech, but in a lot of other subsectors, things were just bonkers in terms of there was no logic to prices and no logic to valuations, which were being given out. And the fundamentals of the company were not changing enough to determine the price that they were getting in the market. So the point remains, whenever there is excess liquidity in an asset class, this kind of hypervaluation trends will come and go. But at the same time, even if you see 2016, there was a correction. Now there's a correction. So I think in the end, investors as well as people who eventually list companies and retail investors all understand the value of money. So if you're not making money as a business at the end, then I don't think in the long run you'll be rewarded. Yes, in the interim you will see people, exiting a company at a high price or making some money as a secondary exit. But the ultimate reality for business creation, I do firmly believe, is that capital needs to breed more capital, right? So from that logic, yes, those do happen. We, I think, currently are in a phase where it's becoming much more realistic. People are asking the hard questions as to where are your margins, what is the repeat rate in your business, are consumers coming back, and so on and so forth. Which is all, in my opinion, it's a hard time for a lot of startups, but I think it's overall good for the ecosystem. So I'll kind of stop at that and let my colleagues do.
Great. So it seems like this is going on a correction mode. Wow. Next to Monica from Your Nest. So very active investor for early stage companies. Monica, how do you see this thing of bubble in regarding the startup valuation? And what are the specific risks that you find that, okay, if you're investing on a very high valuation, this may be the associated risk in that?
So, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. And I'll just briefly tell you, Your Nest is again an early stage fund, and though we are sector agnostic, but we are going for startups which are operating in the deep tech domain. Having said that, regarding valuation, as you said, yeah, there has been a correction. Though, in our interactions with these startups, we are finding that it's somehow not happening with us. We are very baffled that you are listening, you are hearing about winter funding and macroeconomic meltdowns happening, but the startups we are talking to are still stuck on the last year's valuation, and so we are just waiting for another 6 months to pass when it will come to the logical kind of thing. As far as again, if I speak from the practical point of view, it's a valuation would be a derivative of it, and I feel I'm talking about very boring stuff after these very interesting stories. But we are just if the valuation doesn't kind of fit our scope, everything, you just don't go for it because I think nothing justifies very high valuation, which is not justifiable. So that is our viewpoint.
Right. So if that shows that you can't expect so many big checks from your nest, and if you are expecting a good amount, you have to be fairly doing well in the business also. The fundamental should be strong.
Fundamentals should be strong. Founders should be, because again we are coming at a very early stage. Sometimes the pre-revenue stage and everything like that. So it's the leadership team that we are actually looking at.
And that's the second question that I have in the panel, because most of the startups, those have joined us today, they are kind of they are in the raising their seed fund round, and most of them are like very well with this high valuation thing. So for them there is a question that at an earlier stage, should you really care for this valuation thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are others in the ecosystem, and they have also certain expectations that अगर उसको मिल गया है तो हमको भी मिलेगा.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
So, but having said that, again, when you are going for funding, and this I keep it, I mean, everybody in our organization keeps saying that when you are going for funding, first of all, just see whether you need funding or not. Number two, you have to be really sure from whom you are taking the funding. And then, don't be stuck on the valuation if you're getting these two things in the right way.
So that means it should be one of the last things to look for.
Yeah, you have to get some balance somewhere.
So to Sachin, the HBF Direct, and probably you were there in the valuation stage also, like you work deciding the valuation for the companies. So how do you differentiate? Like if you say it's an undervalued startup or a company, it's an overvalued startup or company. So how you differentiate in that?
Thank you. So as a H, we have directly paid. We are a management consultant. Also, we are like help companies to launch IPOs as well. SME IPOs and especially in the startup IPOs. When we talk about like SME IPOs, it's a simple eligibility criteria. Like company should be on profitable stage. वो loss making होना ही नहीं चाहिए. So that's the first one. Even a company is earning 1 rupee is okay for us. Second is if we are
that means वो balance sheet में red नहीं दिखना है, green दिखना है.
It's very clear. Because one thing is very clear, if you can't like run your company without funding, हाँ funding मिलने के बाद भी run नहीं करते. My guarantee, because funding is a tool to support your business or scale your business. It's not a reason for a business to just grow or like चलाने के लिए funding चाहिए. It's not possible. We believe in that. And second is like nowadays, if most of the you are talking about bubble. So bubbles come when we talk about like a kind of a technology or system or marketing, when we are doing some kind of a, you can say cheat codes or something like कि एक काम को कोई कर रहा था, उसी काम के लिए हमने पूरा एक layout बदल दिया है और आप you are just selling this product on same price, जिसके लिए 5 लोग उस पे काम कर रहे थे. Now I am selling directly and this is the app or something. If something like going there, I'll not take a name. But you know, just few startup or those just raise huge money and उन्होंने launch भी किया. But you see the journey, जब उन्होंने 5 साल का एक कैलकुलेशन अपना दिया कि आज हम लोग इतने क्लाइंट्स हैं हमारे पास में, इतने मिलियंस क्लाइंट्स हैं हमारे पास में, कल को हमारे पास इतने मिलियन और होंगे, हम इनसे 1 रुपया भी कमाएंगे तो इतना हमारी अर्निंग होगी. बट व्हाट हैपन, एक दूसरी कंपनी आती है अपने टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ में, कहती है मैं ये प्रोडक्ट तो फ्री दे रही हूँ बिकॉज माई अर्निंग इज फ्रॉम अदर वे. एंड व्हाट हैपन्स, उसका वैल्यूएशन जब आईपीओ में आते हैं तो उनकी वैल्यूएशन नहीं दिखाई दे रही. इट्स सिमिलर थिंग. अब सारे स्टार्टअप्स को देख लीजिए, उन्होंने मेन मोड आईपीओ लॉन्च किया. दैट्स व्हाई गवर्नमेंट कम विद अ प्लान की इनके लिए जो पब्लिक के आईपीओज नहीं खोले जाएंगे, पब्लिक कैन इन्वेस्ट 25% जो वो रेज कर रहे हैं, बट स्टिल दैट्स नॉट डूइंग थिंग वेल. वो 25 भी ज़्यादा है मेरे हिसाब से. सो इफ वी टॉक अबाउट इन स्टार्टिंग फेज, व्हेन आई सी अ कंपनी, आई ऑब्वियसली सी अ पर्सन हु इज द फाउंडर और व्हाट काइंड ऑफ प्रोसेस ही इज मेंटेनिंग. सो इफ आई वांट टू गिव अ फंडिंग टू एनीवन, आई नीड 3 थिंग्स, नॉट अ प्रोडक्ट. प्रोडक्ट चाहिए भी नहीं. First, a founder team, obviously, the knowledge, the vision they have, and third is like process, what they have. And mostly it was process होता ही नहीं. And we talk about process. Like today, also if someone saying मुझे 15 लाख में आपका मेरा काम हो जाएगा, and trust me, I believe कि उसे शायद 2 करोड़ भी कम पड़ेंगे. वाई 2 करोड़ कंपनी? क्योंकि उसको टीम चाहिए, उसको लोग चाहिए जो उसके लिए उस प्रोसेस को बना सकें स्टेप बाय स्टेप। एंड हर प्रोडक्ट का, हर प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन है, हर प्रोडक्ट देख सकता है, इट्स पॉसिबल। बट वो टीम एग्जैक्टली उसका पॉसिबल है, उस प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन है, सॉल्यूशन के आगे भी 4 प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, उसके बाद में उसका टास्क बनेगा, उसके बाद में उसकी चेकलिस्ट बनेगी। एंड इफ वी आर डूइंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स, टाइम, पैसा सब लगने वाला है। तो या तो मेन फाउंडर जो कहता है कि आज मेरी कंपनी है और उसको ना एक बड़ा फंड चाहिए, आज ही कल खड़ा कर दूंगा, पॉसिबिलिटी बहुत कम है। यू नीड पेशेंस। 2-3 साल में तुम्हें खुद समझ में आएगा कि एक्चुअली में क्या हो रहा है। तो जैसा रजत ने कहा, 2-3 साल में समझ में आएगा। तो दिस इज व्हाट वी ऑब्जर्व इट। एंड हम लोग एसएमईज को फंड कर रहे हैं, एमएसएमईज को कर रहे हैं, स्टार्टअप को भी। वैल्यूएशन हमारी बिल्कुल लॉजिकल है और ऐसा नहीं है ज़्यादा नहीं आती, ज़्यादा भी आती है। कुछ कंपनीज जिनका मॉडल बिल्कुल सिंपल है, उसमें खाली थोड़ा बहुत इनोवेशन की जरूरत है। बट अगर प्योरली टेक्नोलॉजी के ऊपर हम 20 साल का और 15 साल का प्लान कर रहे हैं, इट्स नॉट गुड। आप 3 साल का प्लान कर सकते हो कॉम्प्लेक्स है, एज टेक्नोलॉजी बेस्ड कंपनीज। दिस इज हाउ वी टेक केयर ऑफ वैल्यूएशंस।
सो दैट मीन्स कि एक तो बैलेंस शीट, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस स्टेटमेंट जो है वो ग्रीन होना चाहिए, प्रोसेस इज स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए।
कंपनी चलती जा रही है,
एग्जैक्ट।
कंपनी चले तो आप कोई भी ऐसा बिजनेस नहीं है, आप कम खर्चे में करो ना, आप एक यूनिट पे ही बेचो ना। भाई यू आर सेइंग कि मेरे को पहले 10 ही खोल के बेचना है, मेरे को पहले दुबई चलाना है, मेरे को पहले इंडिया के बेंगलोर में चला। आप यहीं से करके देखो ना, उसी में एक का मॉडल बनाओ, उसका एमवीपी जो आपने रेडी किया है उस पायलट प्रोजेक्ट को दो और उसमें एग्जैक्टली पॉइंट टू पॉइंट, देन वी विल टॉक अबाउट। और अगर इस तरह के प्रोडक्ट है जहाँ पे रिसर्च या पैसे की जरूरत है, ऑब्वियसली इतने सारे इंक्यूबेशन और सब सपोर्ट कर ही रहे हैं। मेरा इन्वेस्टर क्यों इन्वेस्ट करेगा ऐसे किसी प्रोडक्ट में जिस पे बिलीव ही नहीं? मेरा इन्वेस्टर नहीं करेगा बिकॉज़ आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स, सब प्राइवेट एंड वी वर्क फ्रॉम इन्वेस्टर साइड, क्योंकि मुझे उसको प्रॉफिट देना होता है। तो ही विल वर्क विद कि जहाँ पे प्रॉफिट सीरियसली दिखाई देगा, यहाँ प्रॉफिट है,
एकदम क्लियर है,
क्लियर है सर।
ये पैसा कमाना है।
मैं दान धान करने नहीं हूँ, मेरा इन्वेस्टर क्लियर बोलता है, सिंपल सी बात है, मुझे उसको कमा के देना है। आई कैन सपोर्ट, बट सपोर्ट में सर इतना हो सकता है, आई कैन गिव अ कंसल्टेंसी, आई कैन टेल देम, बट पैसा कोई अपनी जेब से दे रहा है, यू नो पैसा कितना कीमती है ना, आपसे पैसा कौन करता है?
Thank you, Manish, Alpha Value Consulting, and they're also helping startups in raising money, raising investment. So, what do you think? Because we are talking about overvaluation and bubble. So, in near future, तो सुभदीप जी ने बताया कि भाई ऑलरेडी करेक्शन की ओर है, बट अगर लॉन्गर रन में देखें तो इज इट सस्टेनेबल overvaluation thing? Can it go to a large extent?
Yeah, thank you and thanks for having me here. When you talk about evaluation, when you talk about bubble, how it all starts, first thing we need to understand how it all starts. आज की डेट में प्री रेवेन्यू फंडिंग हो रही है, आज कोई रेवेन्यू नहीं है, हमारा बिजनेस मॉडल हमने शोकेस किया और हमें एक फंडिंग मिल गया, इनिशियल चेक मिल गया। तो पहले क्या हो रहा है, ट्रैक्शन, हमारा रेवेन्यू नहीं, ट्रैक्शन को दिखाया, ट्रैक्शन के बेसिस पे फंडिंग मिल गया। Then from the traction point, then we start getting certain numbers on the revenue side. आज से 2 साल पहले जब हम लोग वैल्यूएशन करते थे तो GMV के ऊपर बहुत फोकस होता था लोगों का। Everybody talks about GMV, बट बाद में धीमे धीमे समझ में आया यार GMV कुछ नहीं, आपका उसमें कमीशन कितना है, आपका रेवेन्यू कितना है, आप टोटल वैल्यू की बात नहीं करो। We carried out close to 2,300 plus valuation till date. तो हमने स्नैपडील जब आया कंपनी तो बहुत वैल्यूएशन उस पॉइंट पे किया और हर 2 महीने में डबल हो रही थी कंपनी। एंड देन आज आपको पता है क्या हुआ, व्हाट हैपेंड टू स्नैपडील एंड व्हाट। सो द क्वेश्चन इज, जो बबल है अगर वो क्रिएटेड है, आज हम लोग बहुत कहते हैं यूनिकॉर्न बन गए, आज 108 यूनिकॉर्न इंडिया में आ गए। सर यूनिकॉर्न एक नंबर है, यूनिकॉर्न कभी ये नहीं कहता है कि यूनिकॉर्न आप बन गए तो फंडामेंटली आप स्ट्रॉन्ग कंपनी बन गए। यूनिक मैट्रिक्स में अगर आप फेल हो रहे हैं तो कभी भी आपकी कंपनी एक लॉन्ग टर्म पे सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस मॉडल नहीं बन पाएगी। एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग वैल्यूएशन डे एंड नाइट करते हैं। तो क्या हुआ कि एक कंपनी है ग्रेट लर्निंग कंपनी को हम लोग वैल्यूएशन करते रहते थे जब भी उसकी फंडिंग राउंड होता था। तो हम लोग ने वैल्यूएशन किया $100 मिलियन की, और उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे जो प्रमोटर था, CFO था, वो सेटिस्फाइड था। $100 मिलियन इज द राइट प्राइस जो हम फंड उठा रहे हैं, जो अलॉटमेंट ऑफ शेयर्स हो रहा है। बट हुआ क्या, बाइजू ने ऑफर दिया आफ्टर जस्ट द वैल्यूएशन वी कैरिड, जस्ट इन 2 months टाइम बाइजू हैज गिवन द ऑफर और वो $600 मिलियन।
Oh my God.
तो क्या एज अ वैल्यूअर गलत है? तो आप कहोगे आपने वैल्यूएशन गलत की थी, वो तो 600 मिलियन को डिजर्व करते थे, आपने तो $100 मिलियन दिया था, तो आप एक राइट वैल्यूअर नहीं थे। सर वैल्यूएशन कभी भी वैल्यूअर नहीं करता है। एक बड़ा मिथ है मार्केट में कि वैल्यूएशन एक वैल्यूअर कर रहा है। वैल्यूएशन को एक एजम्पशन बेस पे सपोर्ट कर सकता है वैल्यूअर कि हाँ ये जस्टिफाइड है कि नहीं है। वैल्यूएशन हमेशा इन्वेस्टर ड्रिवन होता है। तो वैल्यूएशन जो है इन्वेस्टर ऑलरेडी बाइजू को लगता था कि यार इतना पैसा मेरे पास पड़ा है, हमें भी मार्केट में दिखाना है कि उस पैसे का यूटिलाइजेशन कहाँ कर रहे हैं, और उस यूटिलाइजेशन के लिए उसने कहा कि चलो मेरे जो मसल पावर है वो ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग है विद रिगार्ड टू द ग्रेट लाइन, एंड दैट्स व्हाई दे पेड फॉर दैट। ओके, अब वो राइट है रॉन्ग है हम उस पर डिस्कशन नहीं करते हैं, बट क्वेश्चन इज कि जिसको जितना लेंथ एंड ब्रेथ समझ में आता है उतने लेंथ एंड ब्रेथ के अकॉर्डिंग उसकी फंडिंग करता है। वही केस हुआ अभी आपने मैंने हमेशा कहा ये वाइट जब जूनियर जब आया तो करण बजाज इज अ वेरी क्लोज फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन, और अक्सर मिले तो हमने हमेशा कहा कि यार हमको लगता नहीं तुम्हारा ये मॉडल जो चलेगा। वो कहता है कि जय मनीष क्या बात करते हो, हमने तो इतना बड़ा बिजनेस को क्रिएट करके और बेच दिया। और yesterday what you heard और 2 days back कि बाइजू ने राइट ऑफ करने की बात कह रहा है वाइट इंडिया को। तो why these things are happening?
That was one of the biggest deal I think.
That was one of the biggest deal, yes. So जब वो गूगल क्रिएट हुआ और जब मार्केट में यूनिट मैट्रिक्स में फेल हो गया तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस मॉडल नहीं बन पाया। एंड दिस इज द रीजन एंड द लॉजिक कि कोई भी चीज़ को अगर सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस मॉडल बनाना है तो इट टेक्स टाइम। आज हर आदमी स्टार्टअप क्रिएट करता है और उसका नाम हो जाता है प्री रेवेन्यू स्टेज पे, वो कहता है कि मैं एक हीरो बन जाऊँ। आप देखो पुराने कितने बिजनेस बनाए, टाटा आया, बिरला आया, उसने कभी इतने को हीरो बनने की बात नहीं किया। उसने एक मॉडल को क्रिएट करने की कोशिश किया, एक बिजनेस को क्रिएट करने की कोशिश किया जो एक लॉन्ग टर्म पे चल पाए। और यही यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा फाउंडर्स मिस्टेक करते हैं जो एक सस्टेनेबल मॉडल को बनाने की वजह एक वैल्यूएशन गेम के ऊपर केवल लग जाते हैं। और सेकंड थिंग, देयर्स ऑलवेज बीइंग अ थ्योरी दैट लाइक वी से इट्स अ बिगर फूल थ्योरी कि एक इन्वेस्टर ने डाला तो उसको लगता है यार ये चलेगा मॉडल, चलो हम भी डाल देते हैं। वैल्यूएशन डबल हो गई, फिर 6 मंथ्स के बाद वैल्यूएशन 4 टाइम्स हो गई। तो वो क्या चल रहा है, मॉडल चलता जा रहा है, बढ़ता जा रहा है ग्राफ ऑन नंबर टर्म्स, और वो कंपनी यूनिकॉर्न बन गई। बट यूनिकॉर्न चलेगी कि नहीं वो फंडामेंटली किसी को नहीं पता है, और दैट इज द रियलिटी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग। आप देखो ना, लास्ट माइल डिलीवरी सिस्टम को देखो, जोमेटो को देखो, क्या जोमेटो प्रॉफिट बन सकती जा सकती है, आईपीओ में भी चली है। अब क्या होगा, ग्रोथ तो सारी खत्म हो रही है। ग्रोथ हमको लगता है आईपीओ के बाद ग्रोथ आएगी, आईपीओ इज द एंड पॉइंट फॉर द ग्रोथ आई वुड से। So that is a point and reason we need to look at.
That means that getting a right business model is one thing which is most important for a startup. Okay. Rajesh, you are an investor also, an entrepreneur also, being in the market for so long. So I'll ask this question as an entrepreneur, not as an investor, because we have taken the perspective of investors. So as an entrepreneur, because we have lots of startups who have joined us, तो जब ये सीड राउंड रेज करने जाते हैं या फिर सीरीज में जब पोस्ट में जाते हैं, so they are very kind of they have this feeling कि बहुत equity नहीं ले जाना, मतलब 5%, 7%, 10%, बहुत less equity they want to dilute, but they want to have a very high valuation, उसको वो देखते हैं। तो as an early stage startup, do you think कि they should look more for the valuation, or what the discussion has the panelists have their insight कि वो building the model पहले set कर ले, model बना ले, and then go for raising money? What's your insight?
Yeah, so I have been fortunate enough to be a consumer, as you rightly said, across my career. So fundraising from VCs has been a part of my profile, and I've raised funds from organizations like JM Financials to Warburg Thinkers, and we were getting valuated when the turnover was 200 to be valued to get 1,000 crores, and then 30% dilution and so on. the whole journey of conversations with VCs or investors, if you look at it at a micro level, first thing is the market dynamics. As he rightly said, it is, we are at a slowdown stage right now, so the bubble is bound to burst. But there are two, three key aspects to this from a entrepreneur's side of the story. First thing is when you are seeking funds at the start stage, then is most of the time we see startups coming up with a purely passionate idea that they come up with, and they get so drowned in passion that they don't figure out the revenue part of it. And on the other side, I see investors who got cash and they are looking for businesses which can bloom. So they are looking for investments to be put in there. But they look, so the entrepreneur doesn't look at what the investor is looking for, and while he should be aware of this, his key focus should always be at how am I going to generate profit for my business. So what revenue I do and what will be my gross margins. Most of the time I see startup pitch happening, so in a 10-minute pitch, he will be talking for 8 minutes about how he's cultivated the back end, he's got artisans in place, he's got organization in place, and he's figured out that there is a demand in the market for a product that can be made by the skills of the artisans, and he's got them together. He has spent only 2 minutes in talking about where he's going to sell it, who's going to buy it, at what price they are going to buy it, what will be my gross margin, what scale can I take it to. So when we talk about valuation in a very raw term, it is can I scale this business from the threshold of reaching the first crore to a 10 crore to a 100 crore business, and in what timeline. So if there is enough scope in the market and I optimize it, I can reach a 100 crore business in 3 years. It's not difficult, and that excites the investor. So I should also keep in mind what is when an investor is coming in, he's also a stakeholder in the business. So is it a win-win for all? All the stakeholders have to be rewarded. And if you can generate a business which can create a reward for me as well as him, I think it's a win-win situation, and he'll be happy to invest in the business. So what are the key aspects that he's looking for in terms of putting in the money? So can I make it easy for him to be happy to invest in my business? So can I be transparent in my processes? Can I show through a pilot run that to myself and to all the stakeholders that it is a scalable business? That is one thing. Then also, most of the time what happens is the businesses are not focusing on the customer. So who is my customer? My customer is the consumer. But midway somewhere in the zeal to raise funds, I shift my focus and make my investor as my customer, and to make him happy, I project wrongly without considering the market dynamics which keep changing. So today, if you look at all the stories that are around startups or unicorns, why are they failing and why are they still in the negative? Because they made a projection 5 years back to raise funds based on the market dynamics at that point of stage, and the dynamics changed. And there was, so sometimes it is also competition which comes in and takes a part of a pie. So where do you end up in? Can you achieve those numbers? If you don't achieve those numbers, nobody is happy with that. So when I go, and then finally, most of the time, people do not evaluate that from 0 to 1 if I have to reach. I shouldn't mind parting with equity because it's an interest-free money that I'm getting, and at least I'll be able to reach there. So they'll say, okay, at this, I'm evaluating myself and this is the valuation and I'll give you 5% of it. Will that make the investor happy? What is the return he's looking at? I'm not thinking about that. I think I'm sitting on a gold mine, which is not true. I'm not the only one doing what I'm doing. So I think if somebody puts a sense into it and feels that, okay, parting with my profit should not be a problem. If I take debt from the bank, right today, I'm starting with interest on my head. But if I get interest-free money from an investor and he becomes a partner with me, I can take him along and he'll help me grow. So why can't I do that? And today I may not need 10 crores, I may require only 50 lakhs. So am I asking a judicious amount? And am I looking at a short-term goal and a long-term goal together? And if I put it across, I think I'll be able to raise the funds. I think that's the key part here when it goes into the investment game. So for me, the business model is key and very important. And it's not the investor. So most of the time people think that if I get money, I'll be able to grow. That's not true. Even if you put in money, as he rightly said just now, he'll not be able to make money because his focus is not towards that. His focus is towards raising funds. He's spending most of his energy in raising funds and managing them. And most of the time I've seen that the fund comes in and doesn't get utilized in the planned manner. So that's my take on this.
I think very sound insight to lots of startups who have joined us. So, like on a concluding note, it seems that this bubble is like almost we are on the correction stage.
So just to add on the bubble rate, I've seen 2008 to 2012 slowdown worldwide. I've witnessed that. And in 2008, 2009, in the retail industry, everybody was scared, that the consumer will stop spending. And the consumer did become conservative in their spending priorities. I was buying of Max, which was a value fashion brand at that time. It got launched at that time. And we found that the tills were active very aggressively. People were spending there. Priorities changed. But then, so there were businesses which were quite robust in those days as well. So it's not about, and it's a cycle. And look at 5 years before, there is an ecosystem which is conducive to startups, and it means that there is space for any new idea coming in, and there are people willing to bet their money on it. But then, if we keep ourselves to the ground and keep our eyes on the market and how the consumer dynamics are changing, and if we modify our business plan accordingly, I think through the bubble we can go, and it's a cycle, and it's going to go deep down to the rock bottom and then grow up again. The market dynamics work in that manner. So I think it's a cycle.
So almost the concluding remark that build the business, good business for good value. So I thank all of our esteemed panel members for taking the time and providing their valuable inputs to the startups, to the participants, and thank you very much.